In our day to day lives, it is so easy to overlook the significance of the small decisions that we make regarding our finances. And for non traditional earners, freelancers, gig economy workers, artists, entrepreneurs, these small choices can feel even less significant in the face of all of the uncertainty, particularly around our income streams. So maybe you think, what difference does it make if I save a few dollars today when I might not get another gig for weeks? Or it's just one missed payment on a credit card. I will make it up when I get that next job. But the truth is that these small choices, when they are compounded over time, they create a really large impact, often a much larger impact than we realize. So, my name is Miata Idoga. I am the CEO and founder of Abundance Bound and the creator of the Financial Empowerment Program. We teach creatives and other non traditional earners how to skillfully manage that fluctuating income. Why? So that you can consistently put food on the table, but more than that, you can build wealth. And really, what is most critical is you can follow your dreams for as long as you please. I go live at least 2, sometimes more, Mondays every month. And I'm here to just talk about different topics that affect us, particularly as non traditional earners. And I'm also here to answer your questions. What can I help you with? How can I support you in the 3 critical areas when it comes to money? Your mindset, your management. That is the practical day to day actions that you are taking with your money. And also, of course, your ability to make more. So, to really strengthen those earning muscles. Those 3 critical areas, we believe they're critical for everyone, but we particularly believe that they are critical for us as non traditional earners. Because strengthening those 3 areas, it is what really allows us to go after the things that we are here to do in the world and to not be endlessly distracted by the feelings that we don't have enough to even make ends meet. So I will be keeping an eye on the chat. Hello, hello. Welcome, Patrick and Portia, Christina, Claudine. Welcome. And please pop any questions that you have for me in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them. I thought today that we would talk just a little bit about the fact that the little things that we do really, or don't do, really matter as non traditional earners. Our irregular income, it makes it particularly difficult to budget, to save, to invest. And that is what leads to increased financial stress and instability. And so, what we actually want to do is we want to focus in on the small, consistent actions that we can take to improve our financial health. As non traditional earners, it really is about these small daily, weekly, monthly actions that are going to create that solid foundation for long term financial stability, even in the face of uncertain income. So I think that when it comes to money, it is so easy to just, first of all, get completely overwhelmed because there is so much noise and information out there. So it's easy to get completely overwhelmed, but it's also easy to feel like in order to create change, I'm going to have to do these really big things. And it can feel like I don't understand what the really big things are, but I also don't have time, right? I think traditional earners, people who sort of go to a regular job every day, they get a paycheck every couple of weeks, their days, their time is usually really quite well defined. As non traditional earners, we've often got so much going on and a lot of unpredictability when it comes to our schedules. And that can make it even harder to feel like we have the bandwidth to take on large projects, like we have the bandwidth to read these what feel like very complex financial books or to dive into these big courses. It can just feel like we don't have the bandwidth to take the big actions that we think are going to be required to create change. So we need to start small, okay? The biggest things that we talk about in our financial empowerment program are actually the little actions that you can take. The primary one that I hope you will all leave with today is tracking, okay? Are you willing to actually start tracking every penny that comes in and goes out of your household? Right now, depending on where you are in the world, it's just after 3 p.m. for me. If you're in, New York or on the East Coast, it's just after 4. If you're in California, it's just after 1. And so I want you to think for a second about how many times today, just today, since you got up, has money either come in to your life or left your life just today? Now, today is an interesting day, right? Because to be asking this question, because it is May 1st. So today may be a day with more times of money going out than is typical for you. You probably paid your rent today or getting ready to pay your rent. You may have other bills that are due on the 1st, okay? But just think for a second and count up how many things have you paid for today. So maybe you paid your rent. Maybe you bought a coffee. You went to the grocery store. Maybe you put gas in your car, or you bought a subway ticket or a bus ticket, anything like that. Just kind of count up in your head how many times you have spent money. And if the mail came or if you have automatic deposit, think about whether any money has come into your life as well. And I'm going to take a guess and say that it is unlikely that your number is more than 5 things. Okay. Now, if you are someone who really sits down on the 1st of the month and pays all of your bills for the whole month, first of all, congratulations. But those people are very, very rare. Most of us, even if we could, we still tend to pay our bills in intervals of at least twice a month. So generally, when I ask this question, even if it is at the very end of the day, I rarely get someone who answers more than 5 financial events that have happened for them. So if you had a method of tracking, if you utilized software, which is what I absolutely recommend, but even if you weren't ready to use software and you use maybe a spreadsheet or even a pen and paper, be honest for a second and think about how long it would take you to record the specifics of that financial event. So to write down or enter in your software or enter into the app on your phone that you put gas in your car and it cost $42.79, that you picked up some groceries and the grocery bill was $23.15. if we're honest, we will acknowledge that actually tracking takes seconds. If you made it a rule for yourself that one of the last things that you did every day before resting your head on the pillow was to update whatever system you use for tracking the flow of your money, I promise you, if you did it every night, it would more than 60 seconds to 2. Now, most of us, we won't actually do it every night, but if we did it a couple times a week, you're talking about 15, maybe 20 minutes a couple of times a week. The longer amount of time that you let go, the bigger the job it is to catch up. So I try to do it at least every Friday afternoon. It's in my calendar for 5 p.m. every Friday, ending my week by just catching up. In my case, I utilize software. But everyone, I cannot stress enough how the willingness to do just this will change your life. That which we track grows, okay? And your willingness to actually record exactly how you are spending your money, your willingness to get that data, that is what is going to help you to grow, because you will have the information where you will now know exactly what's happening. And it is only when we have that information that we're able to make changes as needed to shift ourselves to move in the direction that we really want to be going. Okay. So, tracking, that is one of those small actions that you can take. And what happens is that tracking actually then builds on itself. So once you establish a tracking system as the foundation of your financial system, then we can build small actions on top of that that will also help you to grow. So once you've started tracking and you've tracked for 2 months or 3 months, we then have the information, the data, where you will actually be able to look and say, okay, this is what I expect to be spending on a monthly basis. And this is one of those things that as non-traditional earners, we really tend to avoid. And I think it is because what we are doing is we are attaching, we're linking together how we're earning and how we're spending. We're making those things, we're tying those things together. And what I want you to do is I want you to actually separate them. So I want you to recognize that, yes, those are two important aspects of your financial life, but because as a non-traditional earner, the how you're earning part can feel very out of control and unpredictable, what we want to do is we want to be absolutely rock solid about how we are spending, okay? And by just being willing to track over a period of 3 months and then 6 months, you'll have the data to actually be able to now forecast what your life costs you. Okay. And that again is just a very small action. It's an action of deciding I will look at the information in order to determine what do I expect to need on a monthly and therefore quarterly and annual basis. And everyone, hopefully you can see how by having this information, we start to be able to make incredible shifts. The likelihood of bringing in what you need, it goes up exponentially simply by knowing what it is that you need. Saying, I just need more money, right? And running around like a crazy person trying to just earn more. That is far less powerful than understanding this is what my life costs. And that allows you to get very focused on how you can most efficiently bring that amount in. So these are just some of the small actions, the small choices that you can make that will make a difference. But the other thing that I wanted to raise today is really understanding that it is not just about recognizing what it is we need to do. It's so critical that we be willing to acknowledge that part of ourselves, that very human part of ourselves. That means that knowledge alone does not create change. And what I mean by that is just because we know something, it doesn't mean that we will actually take action. Okay. And so a part of our job is, yes, to get the information. But another part of our job is figuring out how to bridge the gap between what we know to do and what it is we are actually doing. So, a mistake that we make is we assume that having the correct knowledge will lead to the correct action. And the way that I want to encourage you to think about this is it's to understand that really knowledge and action exist in a quadrant. Okay. So there are actually four segments, four quadrants, as it were. And the way I want you to label them, if you label them on your head or if you want to jot this down on a piece of paper, we have correct knowledge. Okay. We also have incorrect knowledge. Now, I'm using the word correct largely to mean complete, right? So, what I mean by that is we have a complete amount of information or we have an incomplete amount of information or somewhere on the spectrum in between. But what we always want to be doing is pushing ourselves towards having the most amount of information, okay, what we call correct or complete knowledge. But the other two parts of the quadrant are that we have correct action, okay, and we also have in, no, sorry, we have incorrect. All right, now I've confused myself. We have correct knowledge and we have correct action. We also have incorrect knowledge and incorrect action. Okay, so forgive me, but what we are seeking is to have both correct knowledge and to have that lead to correct action. All right. It is very possible for us to have incorrect knowledge and to still take correct action, essentially to kind of luck into something. It is also possible to have in to have now I should have written this down. It is also possible to have correct knowledge. This is a really common one, and to take incorrect action. And we want to understand this. I know I've just been incredibly confusing, but we want to understand this because it's really where our commitment comes in. Okay. We have to be committed to not just collecting knowledge. That is something that can feel like it is action in itself. But collecting the knowledge isn't enough. It must actually lead to doing. And what that requires is it requires a commitment to change. Okay. If we aren't truly committed to change, what happens is that we will continue to gather the knowledge, but we will not actually take the actions. As non traditional earners, we need to be willing to not just seek out the tools, the resources, the support. We actually have to then make a conscious choice to do things differently. So, what I want for you to think about when you think about the very clear but small action that I've shared today, the action of tracking, I want to give you a challenge this week, which is to ask you, will you start doing it? Will you start tracking? And I would love anyone who's willing to pop a commitment into the chat or to share how you are already tracking. And it's also where I'd like to ask you to really think about what is it that keeps you from doing it? Why don't you track? And if you don't track, what could I help you troubleshoot today? What could we talk about that might help you bridge that gap from understanding that this is an action that can be hugely impactful for your financial life and actually doing it? What would help you to start bridging that gap? I'm going to take a look at the chat and see if anybody is willing. Anybody willing to just share what is it that keeps you from tracking? Is it a discomfort with seeing the actual numbers? That's something that can be extremely common. We don't want to see what is happening in terms of our money, how it is going out and how it is coming in. But what else? Why don't we do it? Anyone at all? I know it's so uncomfortable when the speaker says, give me something, but I really don't want these sessions to just be me talking at you. I'd really love for them to be places where you're able to take away something that will actually move you forward. It's so important to know that financial change doesn't happen overnight. It truly is a process that requires patience and persistence and consistency. And what I want to help you do is I want to help you develop and strengthen the mindset that allows you to have the patience. Is it frustration with learning a new app or learning software that perhaps keeps you from doing it? Because again, if you are willing to set up, let's say, Quicken on your computer, understanding that it would just take minutes each day to actually record. Oh, what was that? It was groceries. And I'm going to categorize it as groceries so that now my system is able to track all of what I'm spending on groceries. So Tisha says, no real reason. It's not scary, but it is the consistency. Yes, it's the consistency. Uh-oh, I have just gotten kicked off of Instagram. So hold on one second, everybody who's joining us on Facebook And let's see if I can get it to go live again. Give me a second. Forgive me, everybody, if you are joining on our other platforms. Hmm. Give me one second. Instagram is always the tricky one. Instagram is the one that'll sometimes kick me off. Let's see if we can get it back. Okay, forgive me. We got kicked off of Instagram, so hopefully those of you who were participating will be able to join us again. I will give you a second to see whether those of you who were with us are able to come back. Welcome back, Carolyn. And Tisha had just posted something great. We'll keep going with that. Tisha basically said it is just about the consistency. And that's it. And what I would say is one of the things that we really recommend is we recommend making it a game. And so, not putting all of this massive pressure on yourself, but literally making it a game so that you say, maybe you have a buddy and you agree that on Fridays you are going to meet up, and it can be online. You're going to meet up and you're going to catch up your tracking systems. I really believe that teamwork, doing this together with people who are on the same journey, can make such a huge difference. One of the most popular parts of our financial empowerment program are our power hours. And these are weekly sessions when people come together to just do the work that's hard, right? It's hard to do it on our own. Christina, you said procrastination and perfectionism. If I try to find or create my own spreadsheet, I'm likely to get caught up in the details and spend a lot of time sorting out the best format. Oh my gosh, Christina, thank you. Yes. And so I'm going to make a suggestion, which is that you don't utilize your own spreadsheet. Okay. My suggestion would be, and you can email us at info@abundancebound.com if you'd like a recommendation for a really robust spreadsheet that you can use for your tracking. I am someone who ultimately believes, okay, I ultimately believe that as a non traditional earner, software is going to serve you best. And the reason for that, Christina, is because our lives have so much shifting to them that a spreadsheet can, not only can you get yourself really caught up in the details of setting it up, but then the fact that you can constantly feel like you have to be changing it and adding in categories and adding in different things to work to capture different information, it can keep you in this constant phase of adjusting rather than settling into a system that can really grow and change with you. So, overall, I am really going to encourage you to take the leap towards software. Quicken is one that, if you do the annual subscription, can be really fairly reasonable in price. And there are a million videos on YouTube that can show you how to get up and running quickly and how to keep it maintained, how to keep the software maintained. But also it will help you with that very real thing that you are sharing, which is that with a spreadsheet, you can be constantly tweaking and again, not really settling into a system that works. What I would challenge you to do, Christina, is to pick something that you say, all right, this is going to be my system with minimal adjustments for at least the rest of 2023, and to practice not perfecting the system itself, but to practice actually just consistently utilizing the system. And so, Carolyn, you said that medical costs are exorbitant and unpredictable. And yes, medical costs are just something for particularly those of us who are living in the United States. Medical costs are just one of those unbelievably challenging factors. And so I don't know whether that was a comment that was particularly connected to tracking, or whether you're really just speaking to an area of being consistent about your finances that you find difficult. What I will say very much from experience, we had a very challenging medical year as a family last year, is that the tracking is really, it's obviously everyone so important with everything, but with your medical expenses, it's really, really important. One, because once you reach a certain threshold of spending, you're going to be able to get a tax deduction on those medical costs. And even if we start the year absolutely certain that we're not going to hit that threshold, sometimes unfortunately, we do, and we want to have those records. It's also absolutely critical if you have any kind of insurance where you might be due any kinds of reimbursements, to have that tracking in order to really make sure that you're able to get everything that is owed to you. But in general, Carolyn and everyone, what I want to say is that it is precisely because of these really challenging areas of our financial lives that having our systems that we can be rooted in, whether times are good or bad, whether we're in an easier period or a more challenging period, having these systems and being rooted in these systems is what can help us absolutely stop feeling like everything that happens takes us back to square one. So just checking to see if there are any other comments. Yes. So Carolyn, you were saying it makes it hard to track and to plan. And so what I would say, just to clarify here, because I think you're raising something that is really a place that catches most of us up. It doesn't so much make it hard to track. It can absolutely make it hard to plan. So you said medical costs are exorbitant and unpredictable. Okay. What we want to lean into is that whenever they happen, we can absolutely track exactly what is happening. No matter how painful it is, tracking it so that we have the ability to see. This is again where software is very helpful, because you have the ability to get very specific about those medical costs. What amount is going to doctors? What amount is going to tests? What amount is going to medication? What amount, here's one, is going to parking if you are going to numerous medical visits. I know when we were living in Los Angeles, the parking alone for medical visits could be so high. And that is something that you want to be tracking as well. So this is one of those areas where software can really help you just zero in with a high level of specificity around exactly what's happening. And Carolyn, what that then allows is, yes, it's impossible for us to know necessarily what is coming down the pike medically. But it does allow us to look back and say, okay, this is what happened last year. This is what my medical costs have been in recent years. And it allows us to make some decisions, challenging decisions. I'm not saying it now makes them easy, but it does give us the information we need to be able to look at things like what coverage is available to us. Are there tweaks that we could make in the coverage we have, given the way that our medical costs are happening, that might be slightly better coverage for you than for someone else? And that's something that I just want to go back to for a second, when I was really getting all confused about the quadrants that I was asking you to look at around having correct or complete knowledge versus incomplete knowledge, and correct action and incorrect action. And one of the things that we want to really be aware of is that what is the correct action for me might very well not be the correct action for Carolyn or for Mira or for Jenilyn or Georgia. It is about having the information and the data from your life, which is what then allows you to have better information to lead to better and more correct actions for you. So that for me is also one of the huge benefits of the Abundance Bound Financial Empowerment Program. We are not looking to create a one size fits all financial life. What we're looking for is to understand what it takes to build a foundation. And then we're looking to take the information from that foundation to craft the particular path for you. And this, again, is where the data is so important. And so let me see, because I saw some other notes come through here. Mira, you said Audrey keeps singing your praises. I've been meaning to do your free training, actually put it on my list for today. So I was glad to see you doing a live. Well, Audrey, I absolutely love Audrey. I think she is such a champion for all of us actors. And I'm so glad that you put this in your calendar and that you are going to start seeking this information for yourself, because the same way that Audrey gives us knowledge, right, about what are the actual practical actions. I know lots of you are launching Self-Tape May today, the actual practical actions that you can be taking to move your career forward. What I am certain of is that there are actual practical actions that we need to be taking as actors, as artists, as creative professionals, as non-traditional earners of all kinds, to support everything that we're up to in the world. Our money is not the most important thing, but it is arguably one of the most impactful things. And we therefore have to be willing to stop and create the plans for ourselves for the daily actions that we're going to be taking to support our financial lives, the same way we take daily actions to support everything else that we are up to. So let's see, any other questions today? Anyone who's joined us, I am here to answer any questions that you might have around your money mindset. These are the practical ways that you are actually thinking about your financial life, your money management. So today we talked a lot about tracking, right? That is a practical money management activity. Money management is literally all of the things we need to be doing to handle the ups and downs of a non traditional income, and also making more. We absolutely need to understand that financially powerful people have multiple streams of income. And that does not mean running out and having 14 different jobs. What it means is really looking at our skills and determining what are the most efficient ways that we can create income in our lives and have additional sources or multiple sources of income to increase both our stability and our longevity. For those of us who are in the entertainment industry, obviously, it is seeming more and more possible that there will be at least one significant strike in the industry in the coming days and weeks. And this is just one of those reminders that we have to build our resilience and our ability to ride all of the ups and downs. And that's what we've been talking about a lot today. So let's see, anything else? Anything else in the chat? Anything that I can help you with? No? Everyone. So, what I will leave you with today is what are those small actions, the small actions that you are willing to take and to commit to. Mira, you talked about getting some education, right? Getting started actually learning what some of those actions need to be. Again, we've talked today a lot about tracking. Guys, it can be a pen and paper. You can get a notebook if that's what's going to get you to just start. And here's the game. The game is that you will track every penny that comes in and every penny that goes out and categorize how that's happening. So if you earn money, we want to know exactly how you earned it, right? If you spent money, we want to know exactly how you spent it. You should have a master list, your own master list of categories that you utilize to keep your list up to date, or to keep your notebook up to date if you're using a notebook, or to keep your app up to date or your software up to date to make sure you're consistent with what you're calling things. But remember, we're talking about minutes out of your day, minutes. So don't tell yourself the story that this is this big thing. I absolutely promise you, this is a small step that if I were to talk to you again in 3 months, and today, May 1st, you started tracking and you had tracked all of May, all of June, all of July, I guarantee to you at that point, you will have information that can catapult you forward and start you on a new financial direction that is beyond what you can possibly even imagine today. Tiny action, enormous results. Thank you so much for joining me today. I apologize to everyone on Instagram who I lost halfway through, but we were then able to reconnect. I hope you will join me again on Mondays. I go live at 1 p.m. And obviously, check out abundancebound.com for lots of resources that can help you get started on your journey. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful week and happy May.